Hi, my name is Nicole and this is my husband Tim. We are on a breast cancer journey. Started September 21st in 2015. So we're about 7.5 years in. We've had all kinds of treatments that we can think of, whether it be chemo, trials, hormone drugs, shots, just anything and everything under the sun. Which is why we're doing this video. We are left with the choice of one more, and we'll go into more details throughout this video of what that looked like for us and how we decided, and some more of our journey that we've kind of kept down low, especially the last month to 2 months. Let's see. Through this journey, there's been a lot of ups and downs with feelings for myself, whether it be how are my kids going to be when I'm gone or when I'm towards the end. Will they be able to make it without me? Will Tim be able to support them the way they need to be supported? How do I know when I'm done with treatment and I don't want to do any more? What does that all look like? I did end up getting a palliative care person who I meet with every month to every 3 months. It kind of depends on how treatment's going, and I've had her for about a year to a year and a half now, and she is absolutely amazing. Has definitely helped a lot of the emotional things that I've been through, plus the pains and getting things under control so that I can continue treatments. For the kids right now, now that our youngest, Jessica, is getting older, she's really been feeling the emotions that our middle child has felt when this all started. She's a little bit older than what she was when this started, for the middle one, which is Josie. So the feelings are kind of really strong right now for her, and she's got a lot that she's going through, so we're navigating that now. Josie is still our quiet one, but she's the one that asks the most questions. She does talk to a lot of people at church, which we started about 2 years ago and didn't know how badly we needed it. And it's really kind of sinking in the last 6 months to a year, how amazing the community is there. So that's really helped her. And then our oldest, Hunter, he is off to college, so it's hard to kind of know how he's feeling. He's your typical guy, doesn't like to talk about it, share his emotions, kind of go with the flow kind of kid, basically like his dad. And then I will let Tim speak on his own feelings. Go ahead.
So obviously going through this journey has been a difficult one for myself. Watching your love and the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, going through this is difficult. You don't want them to be sick. You don't want them to go through the side effects that come with the treatments. You don't want all those things. You don't want your kids to see that. But in the same token, you know that you need to go through those things, and those things are really the only reason that she is still here at this point. I think we're somewhere around 100 plus rounds of treatment. So I mean, by all means, she's the strongest person I've ever met in my life. To be able to go through that and just deal with those things and all the side effects and just keep going through it. I mean, even the doctors are amazed, and how she doesn't have very much pain or any pain most days. And the side effects for the most part have really been pretty minuscule compared to others that the doctors have seen. So she's really been a trooper to go through it, which is an inspiration for me and for the kids, especially the girls, being that they've seen probably more than Hunter really has. So that's something that we deal with and I deal with. My biggest fear moving forward is, obviously losing my wife, but the biggest fear is how are the kids gonna be, and how are we gonna survive, and I know with the community around us and the people that are here with us, we'll get through it. Um, but that's not to say it won't be hard. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So
Um, one of the things that I've had to do through this journey is figure out my healthcare directive. I don't know about you, but that's not something that sounds fun or um, that anybody really wants to do, because you have a lot of thinking into it. At first, I was like, this is stupid. Why do they need to know? But as I started filling it out, I really understood, and I actually had fun with it, which is weird to say, but really got it down to the meat of what I want. Originally, I was trying to focus more on my kids and the husband, making sure that their feelings were met. And as I read through it, I decided that wasn't how that should be. It should be about what I want and how I want to end things. I'm almost done with it. So that is exciting. It's only taken me 7.5 years to do it. Really focusing on it the last probably 3 years, though. I just have just a little bit left, and then that will get checked off of our box, so that's nice. Let's see. I've had many scans. I've had PET scans, MRIs, brain scans, CAT scans. I think that's all the different types of scans I've had.
ultrasounds,
Ultrasounds.
CT biopsies.
Yeah, CT biopsies. So I've had a couple biopsies as well. One in the breast and like 3 or 4 in the liver, which I should have stated that in the beginning, that I have spots in the left breast, the liver, the stomach area, not quite the stomach, but above it. Lymph nodes in the armpit. And then the most recent scan showed that I most likely have spots in my liver and possibly the colon. We're just going to kind of watch that and see. And then there's some new spots. I don't remember what they're called, but they're on the lining of the sac that goes around your intestines. And actually my husband noticed those, and we talked to the doctor about them and kind of found out more about it and what it means. So with the scan report recently, like I said, we found out about the lungs and possibly colon, and then the spot around the sac. But everything else is stable or shrinking a little bit, so that was good news. Unfortunately, though, if we follow my marker number, which I am very, very in tune with, it has gone up quite a bit.
So maybe for somebody that doesn't know, everybody has a marker number. Anybody, everybody. Most humans hover around the 20 to 25 range for this. Nicole's been on average up until recently 100
Low.
120s probably at the most, and then lower. And at times when things were going good, we'd probably be closer to 30s and 40s. And I think at one point maybe touched into the 20s. But recently those numbers have not been so promising.
They've just been slowly going up, and then all of a sudden they just made a huge jump. In the last 2 months, they've been in the 500s. And then we've been keeping track of them about every 2 weeks or so. And so I started a chemo in January. And I don't remember what my marker number started off as, but we checked again in February and it went up to 5 something, which is still a low number. Most people who have cancer are actually in the 200s or higher.
2000s.
Or 2000s, sorry. Or higher. So I'm still doing good in my eyes anyway. But then with this drug, so we continued it and then it dropped to 534 or something like that. And then all of a sudden this past this past marker number check, it went up to 655, which is huge. As of talking to the doctor today, it's most likely because of the spots in the lungs and possibly colon, or there's stuff growing that we can't quite see yet. So hopefully my next scan will show something.
The way that the doctor explained it today was people that get closer to a time towards the end, the numbers tend to go up faster than the scan reports show. She says typically that happens because the cancer cells are spreading all over, but they're just either not formed enough or too small to see in a scan at this point. So she says, we typically start to see those numbers climb, and then 2 months, 6 weeks to 2 months after the numbers have climbed, then you start to see the actual growth in a visual appearance in a scan. So that's kind of where we're at now, is these numbers are starting to climb, but scans, which typically before when numbers would go up, scans would reflect the change. So they would use the marker number for years as a kind of a guide, short of taking and getting scans, because scans are actually really not that good for you. So you're not supposed to have so many of them. But now that the scan marker numbers aren't quite jiving with each other, we'll probably end up having more scans here. Typically it was about every 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Lately it's been almost every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep.
So
I did not mention I have had 2 rounds of radiation as well. One was directly into the liver. It was like glass beads. That did not work at all. And then I have a spot on my back on the T8 and 9 that was causing quite a bit of pain, and it had been since June, but we never could figure it out. Finally, they did a scan and we obviously figured it out. I had to do 10 days worth of direct radiation on that spot, but it was a palliative radiation, which is different than regular radiation. That one is just to keep things hopefully stable and not grow. I can say that so far that did its job along with the chemo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually looking really nice. So that's good. Let's see, what else could we talk about? So the treatment I was just on, I was on for 3 months. I've always had the rule of you try for 3 months, because the first month it's not going to tell you anything, marker number wise or scan. The second month will start to tell you kind of if it's working or not, and the third month will really tell you if we can continue this medication or not. As we've talked about with the scans say one thing, but my marker number says another. So I've decided, since my marker number is so high, and even though the scan looks good, minus the couple spots, we had 2 options. I could start another chemo, or I could be done. And I'm not gonna lie, I really, really thought about being done. 7.5 years, tons and tons of rounds of treatments. I'm getting pretty exhausted.
Almost continuously on treatment.
Yeah, I think I've only had maybe a month or 2 in the 7.5 years off of treatment in general. So this is like legit all the time having treatment. So I really considered not doing treatment anymore. We did ask the prognosis question if I were to not do this treatment. Actually, we'll go back to a month of this medication I was on before. In February, Tim came to the doctor's with me, and that was the second round of the treatment I was just on. And I decided, since Tim was with, let's ask the prognosis question. I've never asked it before because we were still really early in the stages and, still had a lot of options, but now I knew we were running out of options. So we asked, and she said about 1.5 to 2 years. Which I was like, okay, cool, not a big deal. It all depended on how the medications worked and this, that, and the other. So the goal was to keep me on the last medication 6 months. And then if I were to do the new one, it would be hopefully 6 months. And then there was a third one, but I won't touch that one. I've had ones like it before, and it's never ever done anything for me because I produce 99% estrogen even without having ovaries and stuff in my body. Nobody can really tell me why. It's just how my body works. So hormonal suppressants just can't touch it. And that would be the last drug in the options. And it's already off the board. So it left us with...
at the time, too.
Yeah, at the time, 2, but I scratched that off right away. I said absolutely not. So then it left us with the one that we have the choice of making now. So today we saw the doctor, as Tim had said earlier, and prior to seeing the doctor, we asked our kids. We are very open with them. They know just about everything that's going on. There's a few things we probably left out. A lot of my feelings and Tim's feelings, they don't really know. And that's just because I don't feel I need to put that pressure on the kids. But with it being our last possible option, I decided I wanted to kind of know where they sat with treatments with me and kind of their opinion. So we asked them. 2 of them said to do the last treatment, and then another one said don't do it at all. And I could understand why each of them said what they said and how they came up with it. So today when we went in, we asked more questions. And one of them was another prognosis question, since we're at this medication sooner rather than we wanted to be. And the prognosis now is if I'm on this medication about a year. Now, I was on a medication that's just like this, and I was on that medication for a year. So, you don't really know how things are going to turn out. But if I didn't do this medication, at the rate my numbers are going up and the way the scans are looking, it could be 6 to 8 months. So, that being said, after long, hard talks, and Tim and I really talked last night at dinner and really set some feelings out there, we decided we were going to go for the treatment. Ultimately, it is up to me and what I do, but it's nice to have some other people collab with you, and I've asked quite a few people as well what they felt I should do and had them do some research as I did. So today we started our last treatment. It went fine, didn't have any issues. So far I'm feeling fine. I just have a headache from the pre-meds, which is normal. The next couple days will tell how this is really gonna go. I do have a steroid that I take the day before, the day of, and the day after, and that's supposed to really help. So some of the side effects are losing the hair, which I'm not very happy about, but what do you do? I think that will be my 5th time losing my hair. The thing I like about it is I get to pick out new head wraps, so it's fine. I might try a different style this time. Let's see what else. Nausea, vomiting, bone pain possibly, neuropathy possibly, which I already have both. the bone pain and neuropathy, but I take medications for both. So we're hoping it stays low. Nosebleeds.
Just feeling like you got the flu.
Oh yeah, the flu, but that's only a couple days. So really, I just need to make it from day 1 to day 5, and then I get a couple weeks off, and then I do it again. So as long as the side effects stay down, I should still be able to work. Hopefully, I'm not missing a week. But if anything, I'll be able to go back week 2 and 3, and then I'll do the whole process over. The thing with chemo is the more you take, the worse it gets. So we have to watch that. I don't know. Really, we just go with the flow. Like whatever happens, happens, and that's what we do. I do know after this medication, one thing that we will be looking into per my palliative care is hospice. Now, I may not be sick enough for hospice right now, but having all my stuff turned over to them means I can start to get to know my team. And if I don't like them, change teams. And just get everything ready for when the time really comes. My palliative is always stressed. Know your teams before you're too sick, because when you're too sick, it's too stressful. And I 100% agree with her on that. I really feel you should jive with your team, and they should really get to know you as well prior to, just so that they can get all the information that they need before it's too late and you're like trying to figure this out and nothing's done and can't even talk, whatever the case is. So when the time comes, we will be starting that and switching over to all my services through them. They do come to the house, and they cover everything that I need. So, and they're available 24/7. So that's good. What else with them?
That's really it. I mean, they're there to help. They're there to do whatever you need, and get to know them. So about a year and a half ago, we went down to the Mayo, and just to get a second opinion, see if there's maybe something that they have that we didn't have access to, and after talking with them down there and going through everything, pretty much everything we were currently doing was everything we could do. They didn't have any new trials. They had nothing that she would qualify for at the time. But the one suggestion there was from that doctor to go ahead and get palliative care set up, because you will need it, but you don't necessarily need it now. And I agree, that is definitely something to do. Her view was that she's seen patients that have waited too long to meet those people. Then they become really stressed while meeting them when they really need them, and they go downhill much faster. So she really stressed that we do that. So going forward, Nicole did that. She met her palliative, and because of that, now she does want to meet hospice. Now we're maybe not ready for hospice yet, but we're really close. I would imagine probably in the next few months, probably have to
6 months to a year, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't want to go down that path, but I mean, we also don't want to wait. So we need to find out who those people are, how that looks, what do we need to do, what do they need to do, and just to get everything finalized in that sense. So
one thing I've learned through this journey is to keep all your ducks in a row. So you find your oncologist, make sure you jive with them, and then down the road find your palliative, because my palliative has done some amazing things with me. She's been able to help control my pain, help control my neuropathy, just be there if I need questions answered, reports read that I haven't been read to yet, just because I hadn't seen my doctor and I'm impatient.
Almost a second opinion on things too. Just
Yeah.
another view.
Always get a CD of your scans, even if you can't read it. Just, I don't know, I think they're fun to look at. But just so that you have it, and then always, always, always get a report of those scans, because sometimes the doctors, they don't tell you everything, which we had kind of learned, unfortunately, but it wasn't, thankfully, it wasn't a big deal. But some of the little teeny tiny stuff kind of gets shoved underneath the rug in a sense, and we worry about the big stuff. And for me, I like to know everything. Every small little detail going on in my body, I need to know. So I recommend that. If you're not doing a marker number check, I definitely recommend those. It's a C20 to 27 or something, or a 15 to 19. I don't remember. I get kind of both of those. And then, really, if you're a religious person, really just give it to God. I've always put it in His hands, but the last 2 years, if not for sure this last year, I've been really just putting it in His hands. I mean, really, it's the path that He picks for me, the journey He wants me to be on, what He wants me to learn from this, what my testimony is from this, and stuff. So we're definitely learning, even though we have the prognosis from the doctor, from science, ultimately it is up to God and when He wants me to be done with this journey and what He wants me to get out of it, and my family, and friends too, because I'm sure they've learned things along the way. I'm sure they have feelings about what I've done and haven't done, all that stuff. But ultimately, I feel I've done the best throughout this journey that I can do. I know we're going to come up to a very difficult time with money. Thankfully, there are grants out there, but most of them, unfortunately, we've used. And most of them are a once a year or once a lifetime. So we just got to figure that out. That's kind of the next hurdle, why we're in between hospice and the treatments and stuff. I think that's what we're going to work on next. And honestly, just continuing to be honest with everybody. Having to hold this information in for the last month to 2 months has not been easy, but I would rather give you all the information at once rather than give you bits and pieces and then something change or not change, or whatever. So I'm sorry, but not sorry that I haven't put it out there very much. We just needed to make sure we knew what was going on before I could really share. But without the love and support that you all give me, without my positive attitude as much as I can have it, I do have ups and downs like everybody else. Being in church has really helped, throwing myself into serving church, getting into groups. I really, really recommend Grief Share. Originally we were going for my brother and some other people that we've had pass away. But it was the third video, the second time around, first time around, I don't remember. But that video really showed us that we were there for my brother and everybody else, but more so for my diagnosis. Grieving for the life that we thought we were going to have, and now we're not going to have all of what we wanted and had planned. And you don't even have to just be grieving somebody passing away. It could be a journey that you're on. You lost a dog. We've had people in for everything. Loss of kids. I've actually done the group 5 times now, and I will continue to do it as long as I can. The community that you get out of it each time is seriously the most amazing community. They all get it. And if anything, I'm teaching them things and they're teaching me things. Um, so it's just really nice. I never knew there was a community like that until our what are they called?
Facilitators.
Yeah, facilitators, Chris and Dawn. And they always tell me every time we start a new group that the first time we were in there, they really felt something was different about us, but couldn't pinpoint it.
Mind you, they didn't know us at all.
Yeah, from Adam and
This
Eve.
was our first time being there. Never met them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the first time we were there, our group was big, so we had to split off into two. So they didn't really get to hear our story because we weren't with them, and I don't even think we said anything the first time around. I feel like we kept that pretty much on the DL. It was the second time around that we felt comfortable enough to say something. So I think it was that round third video that we figured it out. And they always tell us, they go, we knew it. We knew something was different about you guys. Couldn't figure it out. And, so they've been wonderful with us, checking in, being along the road. Unfortunately, Dawn has been where Tim has been. So that's helpful for Tim, I think, sometimes, as if he had questions, he could go to her. But her husband was given 6 months to live, and he lived 6.5 years. So this is why you don't always listen to the doctors and you just give it to God, because God, he really has the plan. I mean, that's what sticks with me, is the fact that he got 6 months and lived 6.5 years. And I've been on this for 7.5 years. So coming to the end, as much as it is scary, I'm not quite scared yet. Maybe it's because we haven't gotten to the end. But I know I'll get there eventually. I know I'll have some really lows. But I have the people, my parents, my siblings, Tim, church, my best friends in general. I have tons of people who I can talk to if I need to. Tim's got people as well. My kids, they've got people to talk to. So I think we're doing pretty good with all that we have been on, and even coming to the end, navigating something we never thought we were going to have to navigate, on top of the teenage issues and college issues and marriage issues, life itself issues. We've got all these little bits and pieces that we have to navigate, but how do you keep your head afloat? And it's counting on your community, leaning on those who care. I don't know, what do you...
I mean, we face all the same things that everybody else with a family with 3 kids and, just this day and age. We face all of the exact same trials and tribulations that you go through, just with another thing on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can just imagine what kind of craziness your life is like now, just add that on top of that, and just imagine what that's like to go through on a daily basis. I mean, you think about things a little differently. 7.5 years ago, our outlook on life was, retirement and travel and doing things together, and then we had that diagnosis, and that really puts a curveball in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't know at the time. I mean, we never once asked prognosis at that time. Nicole was essentially stage 4 from diagnosis. I mean, there was maybe a week or two while they were doing some testing and things before we knew. But to go from like nothing's going on to all of a sudden here's a big pile and you got to deal with it. It's been difficult, and we hid from it. We hid from it for years. We dealt with it, but we hid feelings. We hid things, and we both were looking for a church, but we both grew up in very dry churches, and that's just what we thought church was like, and we just didn't like it. So we pushed, and finally we attended a church or two that we felt was going to be a little closer to what we wanted, and we fell into the church that we're in now. And it's just finding the right group of people. And the couple of churches we went to were all great churches. It's just either they were too far away, or we just didn't quite have the right feel. And the one that we chose and stayed with has just been amazing. The group of people, many of you are probably watching this. You know, you've all been amazing, and people often tell you, anything you need, and I quite honestly believe everybody that says that at church does mean it. Anything you need, you just let us know, and whether or not they can provide it, they will figure out a way to provide that. Whether it's ask others to help, or whatever it is. So really just getting involved with some form of community really made a difference for us. We weren't sure how our kids are going to be, because really they were never involved in church. They were baptized younger, Lutheran church, which there's nothing wrong with that. But we, like, for our son, we said, you're 18, you can decide this yourself. Our only request is that you go to at least one time. And he had never been to church. He's never really had any interest in church. We convinced him to go at least one time, and probably a month or 2, 3 months later, he was helping out with the tech end of it, and doing video cameras and soundboards and lighting and all that stuff. And now, so much so that when he comes back into town from college, they're texting him asking, "Hey, are you home this weekend? Because we could use you." And so I mean, it just, for him, he went from that nothing to watching sermons. And he would walk around the corner and hear Nicole's listening to a sermon, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I would watch that one." He didn't even see it; he just heard the voice. Our other two, we pushed them a little harder, but they really jumped in as well. Youth groups, and then serving on Sundays, watching kids and whatnot. Our middle daughter actually works at the church now. She's an employee of the church. So, they really
and
jumped
she
in.
finally found a person she likes, a pastor, and has been binge watching his videos. I never thought that she would ever do that, because she's always like, "I'm not watching the videos." Fine, whatever. So she's actually told us a couple that we need to watch, that we've watched from her. Our son does the same thing. "You guys didn't see that yet today? You need to watch it right away.
Right.
This was amazing." Whatever. The only thing I'm working with my middle, which is Josie, is taking notes so that she can
Ingest it a little better.
Yeah. So she's working on a style for herself, which I'm super proud of. She said definitely watching the videos is easier because she can stop and go back. And our youngest right now, I'm just
glad she's going.
Getting her to church is good. Which getting her to church isn't the problem.
Most days. There's some days that she doesn't want to go.
Yeah, mostly on Tuesday nights, because technically she doesn't have to go. But she loves youth group. She loves watching the kids. Sometimes they have her come in and watch kids when they need help for like First Wednesday or Tuesday night for groups. So it's been really good. So I definitely recommend throughout the journey is definitely have that community that you can count on.
If you're a non-believer, and just finding the right people. It doesn't need to be church necessarily, just finding the right group of people. And that's one thing that we have learned through this journey is, who are your friends? In the beginning, you think you know who your friends are going to be, and
turns out to be the ones that you never expected.
It's the people that were kind of there but not really, that really stepped in, and the ones that you thought were going to be there, they weren't.
But going through the journey, I've met so many amazing people. people who have been in my situation, people who have not been in my situation,
People starting their journey.
people starting their journey. And those people have bent over backwards for me, and I could not thank them enough. We've had people bring us meals, send meals, gifts.
People cry on your shoulders with you.
Yeah, I mean, for Hunter's 18th birthday, because of COVID, I couldn't do anything, and they stepped up and helped. So just find your community, do what you can, and honestly, you'll get through it. But I just want to thank everybody for watching this, taking time out of your day, for supporting us and loving us through all these years. This last chemo will be a hard one, not necessarily side effects, but just because knowing in the end when it doesn't work anymore, we're done. I wish nobody feels sorry for me and says that I wish I could take it away from you, because I don't. I always say it's better for me to have it than another kid. But honestly, without this journey, I don't think we would be where we are today. So this journey has really brought out a ton of stuff. So I'm not sorry that I'm on this journey. Does it suck? Absolutely. But I am very thankful to be on this journey and have met everybody I've met. So, you have anything to say?
Just really, the biggest thing that Nicole's always said is that she just wants her story to be shared for others who either are going through this, have family that's going, friends that are going through it. So really just share the story, share it around. You know, she's always said that, you know, her test is her testimony. And we didn't really realize that because we just were hiding from it. We didn't really figure that out until recently. But you never really know how strong you are until you face some amazingly difficult obstacles. And
This is the hardest one.
this has got to be the hardest thing we've ever done in our lives.
I think right now is the hardest part of this journey. Up until now, it wasn't terrible, but
I mean, it wasn't terrible, yes, but it was difficult. It has been difficult. This obviously is a different part of the chapters, and you know, it's because before you're looking at, you know, we never asked the prognosis question, but we never really felt like we needed to until recently. And I don't know if it's because we just didn't want to know, or if we just wanted to continue and just live life until life doesn't live anymore. But you know, unfortunately, we're both planners. We like to know what's going on and have a little bit of a guidance in life. So coming down to this point is,
don't be afraid to ask the question either. You may not like the answer, but just remember that answer can change in a heartbeat if you find the right regiment that will work. And remember, God's always got you. He's not going to leave you hanging. So thank you again, everybody. If you have questions, as always, I'm an open book. I may have forgotten to say something or wasn't very clear, vice versa with Tim. Just let us know. We'll answer it. Totally open book. I don't have anything to hide. But seriously, thank you, everybody, and we love you guys. And we'll see how the next couple months go. So be watching out. We love you guys.
bye.
Bye.